I'm Rachel Poe, Program Developer at Prairie, and it's really great to see you again. Thank you for stopping by. Today, I'm going to teach you how to make a cardboard loom. And it's just a really fun, simple, and easy way to turn yarn into fabric. And there's a lot of customization you can do, so let's get started. You really only need some very basic supplies. You need a rectangle of cardboard, you need some scissors, yarn, and a giant paper clip, or really any size paper clip will do, but this little guy's gonna come in handy later. So, cardboard rectangle. It doesn't have to be a perfect rectangle. This is just the frame for the weaving. Once we are finished with the project and take it off the loom, it will even itself out. So mine isn't a perfect rectangle, but it's about the size of my hand. Now, something to think about is that you want your cardboard not to have any bends in it. If you get a really big piece of cardboard, it's gonna take you a longer time to finish that project. You also want to pay attention to the direction of the corrugation of the cardboard. You'll notice that a lot of cardboard has the little lines on it. And if you look at the end, it's got the like wiggly things in there. You definitely want to try as much as possible to have that be the up and down part of your loom, because that will make it the strongest loom possible. So I've got my cardboard rectangle. The next thing we're gonna need is our scissors. So what you're gonna do is you're going to cut a series of just little slits into your cardboard along the top and along the bottom. You want them to be maybe 1/2 inch to 1 inch deep and 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch apart. What? Sorry, my brain just stopped for a second. So you're gonna, and the other thing that's really important is that you have the same number on the top and on the bottom. It doesn't matter if they line up perfectly, because you, again, once we take it off the loom, our weaving will kind of even itself out. Let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got 11 on that side, so I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 on this side too. So I've got 11 cuts at the top and 11 cuts at the bottom. My loom is now ready for warping. Warp speed. No, sorry, we're not, going where no man has gone before, but the warp on a loom is the part that goes up and down. It doesn't really move a lot. If you've ever been to the loom house at Prairie and seen that gigantic barn loom in there, the warp is the thread that's on the loom before you start weaving. It goes kind of away from the weaver. The weft is the stuff that goes back and forth. On the barn loom, instead of having to physically go over and under all of those threads, which would take a very long time, there are heddles which pull the yarn apart and make a hole for the weft to go through. Unfortunately, our loom is small enough that we're just going to be able to go over and under all of our warp threads just here on our cardboard loom. So next, we need yarn. So to warp our loom, what we're going to do is we are going to take our yarn. I'm going to use this purple stuff for this guy. And you're going to, on the back side of your loom, what will become the back, you're going to take the yarn, kind of hold it at one corner, and go through the cut at the top of the other side. Now this just helps us leave a long tail. And then I'm going to go through the cut at the bottom, and then back around. And so as you can see, I'm just kind of wrapping the yarn around, and then you can just pull the tail out if it gets stuck in there. So you're just going to go around and around and around like this until you get done. Now, like any good chef, I have a dish already prepared. So this is what a finished warped loom looks like. When you get to the other opposite bottom corner. You're going to leave another long tail and just tie them together. Now, if you want to make life easy on yourself, there's a slightly different way that you can warp your loom that will make remembering over and under a little bit easier, and that is to use 2 colors when you're warping. So if you're going to use 2 colors, you're going to just, now if you're going to use 2 colors, you generally want to have an even number of cuts in the top and the bottom. It's not necessary, but it makes more sense in my brain, so that's what I'm recommending. And instead of just going in every cut, you're gonna go every other cut with color number 1, and with color number 2, you're gonna fill in the gaps. And you're just gonna have 2 ties on the back like this. So with the double color warping, it's going to look like this. So it will help you kind of remember the over, under, over, under. Now that we have a warped cardboard loom, we can begin weaving. To weave, what you want to do is you want to take your yarn, and I'm going to cut a piece that goes about from one hand to my opposite shoulder. That way you're going to be tempted to have a really long piece of yarn, and it will take you longer, and you can always just tie it off and start a new piece of yarn. That way, if you want to change colors, it'll be easier. Also, if you have a super long piece of yarn and you decide that you want to switch colors, you can just stop and change. But anyway, I've got my first piece of weaving yarn, my warp yarn, and this is where the paper clip comes into play. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tie the yarn, one end of my yarn, on to the end of the paper clip that has the 2 arcs in it, as opposed to the long one here. Actually, I changed my mind. I want it on the long loop here instead of the short one, and you'll see why that's kind of important in a minute. The other end of my yarn, I'm just going to loosely tie to one bottom corner of my loom right here. So it's tied to here, and it's tied to here, and now we can start to weave. All right, now comes the fun part. We've got our yarn tied onto the corner of our loom, and we're gonna start weaving. I'm gonna take my paper clip, which will kind of help guide the yarn through, and I'm just gonna go over and under every other one. And I'm gonna kind of pull through, and I'm not gonna pull super tight because I don't want that to pull all the way in, and I'll talk about how to fix that in a moment. Let's see, I went under, over, under, over, under. And now I'm gonna pull to the side. Now I like to use my right hand when weaving, so I'm just gonna whoop, turn it over and go back in the same direction. So I'm always weaving, for me, I'm always weaving right to left. You can do whatever works for you. It's your project. And it might take you a while to figure out what you want to do. It's taken me a while to figure this out. But so I've gotten to the end, and now I need to go back the other direction. So I need to pay attention to this right here the most. You can see the last thing my yarn does is it goes over this edge warp string. So what do you think I need to do as I'm going back? That's right, I need to go under. So I'm gonna go under, over, under, over, and just keep going, whoop, back the way I came. Excellent, excellent. Now, that doesn't look, like a weaving we think of, so I'm going to need to I'm going to take my paper clip, and I'm just going to kind of use the tip to push it down, and then I can, tighten it up and make everything sit nicely. Now, if you're not paying attention and you don't go over when you should go under when you start, what's going to happen? Well, let's find out. So we're coming out under over here, so I'm gonna do the same thing, under, over. And you can see how the paper clip helps me get across. So I've done the same over under pattern this way that I did going this way. And this is what happens if you accidentally make a mistake and do the wrong pattern. your weaving just comes out and you have to do that line again, and that's no big deal. So that's how it goes. You go one direction over under, you're moving your warp across, you're moving your weft, this is your weft, across your warp, over, under. And I'm not pulling super hard at any point. I want these lines to remain parallel, and I'll talk a little bit in the next bit about what to do if that happens. And you just turn around and keep going. And there you are. That's weaving. You are weaving. Now I do want to show you what would happen if I was pulling this really tight. See how these two warp strings come together? If I kept doing that and kept doing that and kept doing that, didn't stop, your weaving would end up looking something like this. See how it narrows as it goes up? That might not be something you're looking for. So what you want to do is to catch that early. You can fix this, but it will take some time. So if you catch it early, all you have to do is you can use your warp string to help. Just grab that edge and kind of pull and nudge it back. And there you go. It's back to rectangular. Perfect. Now, as you weave, you might find that you get to the end of your yarn, and I've got about enough to go back and forth in two directions, and I could do that, but I'd like to leave a nice long tail just in case something happens and I have a really short knot. But I want to leave maybe like one length in direction, so I'm going to go back the other way here. Push that down. I don't know, maybe that kind of trapezoid looks kind of cool. But in any case, so now that I'm here, I want to tie a knot, so I can use my paper clip to kind of help me tie a knot. I do actually want to go back through this loop. And then I can cut it off the paper clip, or because paper clips don't have an end, I can just slide it off the paper clip like that. And now I can get a new piece of yarn and keep going. Now these two yarns are called variegated yarns, and so they change color as they go. That makes a really cool pattern. Or maybe I just want to change color completely and move to a different color, or maybe I want a chunkier yarn. There's endless options. It's up to you. You can even weave with strips of old t-shirt. If you've got old t-shirts, you can cut them into strips and use that for your weaving. You can weave with paper. There are endless possibilities, but in any case, I am going to do a time lapse so you can see me finish this weaving. Hope you enjoy it. Alright, so I'm going to pause the time lapse for just a moment because I had a thought, and it's something that I didn't think about before. But as I've been weaving, these ends are really kind of getting caught up in the yarn, and I realized that you don't have to tie them to the ends. There is another option, and I'll show you what that option is now. So I'm just going to kind of pick apart this. Actually, no, I'm not. First I'm gonna slide it off my paper clip. And then I'm gonna try to gently untie the knot, and whatever, it's close enough. Next, I'm going to grab another piece. I don't want to use that yarn. I want to go back to purple. So what I can do, instead of tying this to the end and this to the end and then having to deal with these bits here, is I can tie this yarn to the end of this yarn. And the best way to make sure that that knot is secure and is not going to pull apart is to just take so the two ends are together, and to just do an overhand knot, like that. And then when you pull tight, now those two pieces of yarn are together. I am going to trim this because, and I'm going to trim these too, honestly, because I don't like dealing with them. And so now the color transition might not happen at the end and you might not have solid stripes. So if you want your stripes to be completely solid, then do tie off at each end. If you don't care where the color changes, or if you want the color to change in the middle of a row instead of always at the end, this is another option for you. Okay, back to the time lapse, back to the fast forward. So there we go. I'm pretty much to the top, but since my paper clip is about as wide as some of the spaces left, it's getting kind of hard to weave. I'm gonna do just a couple more rows at regular speed so that you can see. I'm kind of having to, before I was picking up, you know, going halfway and then going the rest of the way. Now I'm doing a couple at a time. Let's see. And I'm going to do one more row going back, and then I'll call it done. I just wanted to have green on both ends because I thought it looked cool. So here we go. Last row. Sorry, sometimes I make weird noises. And ta-da! I am done weaving. Yay! All of my little knots are on this side. You can see them sticking up, which means the other side will be nice and smooth. What I want to do is I'm going to tie this off to the side here. I'm going to make a little knot. And then do the same thing. So when I'm making a knot, I'm making a loop. See how that, whoop. I'm making a loop that slides, and then I'm coming in from the back and coming up and through, and as I pull, it makes a little knot. And ta-da! So now to remove my weaving from my cardboard loom, I'm going to flip to the back. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut straight through it. I'm also going to trim off this little bit right here so all of my ends are kind of the same. Now the cardboard is holding the warp threads on for now, which is great because otherwise I could just pull those out and it would come out completely. But this is how you're going to tie off your weaving so that it stays. We're going to start here at a corner. And I'm going to bring over 2 strands and I'm going to do a double knot. So tie once, and I'm not pulling super tight because I don't want it to squish down. Tie twice, and I'm going to tie a third time just because I like to be safe. It's better safe than sorry. So next I'm going to take one of the ends from this knot and one more warp yarn. And I'm going to tie those together. Again, I'm tying till they touch. I am not pulling super hard on the first one. Third one I can pull really tight. Ta-da! Now I'm going to do the same thing with the next one. So the first knot gets it just into place. Second knot secures it. Third knot for safety. So I'm going to go ahead and do another time lapse for the rest of these, and I'm going to go across the top and then across the bottom, and then we'll be back. There we go. Your weaving is off the loom, and your cardboard loom is still intact. There's nothing preventing you from using this to make another weaving the exact same size and shape as the one you just made. In fact, if you make 2 the same size and shape, you could sew them together on the edges and make a little pocket. Cool, huh? Now, my weaving, I didn't really have a solid plan for it when I started making it. Obviously I needed to make one for this video, but it turns out this little guy's gonna be pretty useful. How? As a coaster. Now when I'm sitting at my desk doing my work, I can have my drink next to me and I don't have to worry about leaving a water stain on the table. Maybe there's a need for coasters in your house. Maybe you want to start working now so that at Christmas you can give everyone handmade coasters. It's totally up to you. So I hope you have fun with your cardboard weaving. I would love to see any projects that you make. You can post them on social media. Make sure to tag Connor Prairie, use our hashtags, and that way we'll be able to see the cool things that you are making. And I'm just really thrilled with how well this turned out. I had no expectations, and it's perfect. So I guess that's it for me for right now. Have fun with your cardboard weaving, and we will see you soon. Bye.